welcome to the mission briefing for mission 3B, Munitions Dump. So, what's going on in this mission is the rebels in Grayskull are getting pretty nervous that the Imperials are getting closer to discovering their location, and they're trying to buy time to get their defenses ready or start evacuating and look for a new base. And what's going on here is that the rebels are launching a raid on a nearby munitions depot known as the Boneyard. And what they're planning to do is eliminate the Imperial garrison and steal some of the munitions that are stored at this supply depot, this munitions depot, which has two effects on the Imperials. One, they lose some of these supplies, and the other is that the Imperials will probably respond by increasing their garrisons around the munitions depots, which means there's less ships looking for the rebels. Let's get started with the deployment. Our setup is pretty basic, but this time we're using containers instead of asteroids. So we have 8 asteroids to place, or 8 containers to place, and they're going to go at beyond range 2 of the board edges and beyond range 1 of each other. So this is almost identical to a standard setup of asteroids in a normal game of X-Wing, but there's just 8, and they are containers, not asteroids. But keep in mind that later on these containers will operate largely as asteroids, except for one important aspect, which is that you can attack them and blow them up. Alright, and you just start with the rebel player and alternate placing these. Okay. If you can't place one at greater than range 2 of greater than range 1 from each other, then you can move out to the just beyond range 1 of the board edge to give yourself more space. But you should be able to place all 8 within the center area here. Alright. The next thing we do is deploy our Rebel and Imperial forces. In this mission, we have deployment by ascending pilot skill order, which is the same as you would do in a normal game of X-Wing. So you start with pilot skill 1 and work your way up, and both players will be deploying, in the same step, essentially. So let's say we have 7 TIE fighters, 7 Academy pilot TIE fighters, and we have 4 rookie squadron X-Wings over here, and then so these 7 TIE fighters will go down first, rookie squadron pilots go, and then this 1 pilot skill 4, probably a black squadron, would go last. Alright, so just like a normal game. And then the rebel player has the initiative. Alright, let's move into the special rules for these containers. This basically these basically operate as asteroids, but the difference is that they can be attacked, target locked, and destroyed as if they were enemy ships. Also, if you drop a mine, like a cluster mine, proximity mine, on these container tokens, the mine will go off and it will affect the container token. Container tokens never roll any defense dice, so but they are attacked like enemy ships. So let's say, for example, we have this TIE fighter attacking at range 1. TIE fighter rolls 3 dice, container rolls 0 dice. If we move it back to range 3, TIE fighter is rolling 2 dice, container is rolling 0 dice. It never rolls any dice, no matter what. When a container token suffers damage, you assign a little critical damage token to it, and if you ever assign more than 2, so let's say that we have a TIE fighter attacking at range 1 and rolls 3 hits or critical hits, you put on 3 critical hit tokens, and then you are going to remove that container token. Now, whenever you remove a container token from play, you roll one more attack die, and if you roll a hit, let's see what we roll here. No. If you roll a hit, then uh, every ship at range 1 suffers one damage. If you roll a critical hit, then each ship at range 1 suffers 1 critical damage. So you have to be a little careful. These containers are, they're terrain, but they're also hazards. If you fly a lot of your ships next to one of these containers, there's a pretty good chance that the enemy is going to try and shoot at it and blow it up, and has a good chance to do a whole bunch of damage to a bunch of your ships. Uh, the final rule for the containers is that you can actually use an action from your ships. You can take the protect action, which shows up in a lot of FFG missions, and when you do that action, you can assign an evade token to a container at range 1. So that might be handy if you are in the lead and you wanted to keep as many container tokens on the board as possible, because when we get into the scoring, it'll become clear that if you're winning, you want to have as many container tokens as possible. The end of the game is triggered when all of one player's ships have been destroyed or have fled. So if there's only rebels on the table, game ends. If there's only Imperials on the table, game ends. Or if there's no ships on the table, the game ends. Alright, let's move into the scoring. So, for each container token that remains on the board at the end of the mission, the player that still has ships in the play area scores 35 points. So, let's imagine that the Imperials have destroyed all the rebels. Take these off. If none of the container tokens are destroyed, you get 8 times 35 points. That is quite a few points. That is what? 280 points? Yeah, I believe that's right. Just on those containers. So, word to the wise, containers are pretty easy to blow up. They've only got basically 3 hit points, and they never roll any defense dice. If you think you're going to lose the game, but you have a little bit of time to take out these containers, or if you think you're starting to lose the advantage and you have a shot to take on a container, take it. If you have a shot where the enemy is clumped up near a container and you think you can get the advantage by blowing it up, that's also a shot you should think hard about taking. When you're in the lead, you probably want to preserve those containers as much as possible because they're all worth 35 points. But the game starts with a lot of points on the table. Now, if you run out of time in this game and both players still have ships on the table, what we do is we sort of do like a final volley type rule. So basically, each player adds up primary weapon attack values on their remaining ships. If one player has a higher total of attack value, they score 35 points for each container. If the players are tied, you split the score. Each player gets 17 points for each container remaining. So this is a symmetrical mission. Both sides have the same objective, have the same setup, have the same points to work with. They both have 100 points to spend on their squad for this mission. So, what you need to do to win this mission, I think, is you need to use these containers to your advantage. You have to I think that you really have to be able to take advantage of those rules, or if just it's very much a dogfight type scenario. Most of your game is going to be dogfighting with the enemy, with the added danger of these containers that can potentially explode all over the table. And it's quite high stakes. Uh, there's also the normal scoring rules apply for destroying enemy fighters. So destroying like this Academy pilot is worth 12 points to the Rebel and minus 12 points to the Imperial. And we also have the standard rules for flying off the table. If you fly off in the first or second activation phase, then the enemy will score points equal to the point value of your ship. So you don't want to do that. You probably want to stick around and try and win this battle for these containers. It's going to be very, very valuable. Again, I can't really overstate the importance of the fact that you can blow up these containers. Because if you think you're going to lose this mission and you don't blow up any of these containers, each of these containers is a 70 point swing. You know, it's 35 points that you don't get, and it's 35 points that the enemy does get. That's quite a lot of points, and they're only 3 hit points, and never roll any defense dice. So don't forget that. All right, good luck.